Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are so excited to have you here to talk about Lucid and Google Workspace and how you can use them together to make your daily workflows more efficient. As people are joining, why don't you go ahead and take a minute, introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're joining from, and what your role is. And while you're doing that, we'll introduce ourselves as well. So I'll kick it off. My name is Kathleen Stone. I work on Lucid's product partnerships and business development team. And I'm lucky enough to work with partners like Google Workspace in building the latest and greatest integrations, go-to-market strategies, and just general partnerships. And with that, I'll pass it along to Jackson Perry.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited to be here and talk a little bit more about Lucid and Google Workspace coming together. My name is Jackson Perry. I'm on the product marketing side here at Lucid, previously a solutions engineer, so really able to see end-to-end how other users are leveraging the suite today. Really excited to unpack this more with you, and I will pass to Alex.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Van Pelt, and I'm a solutions engineer here at Lucid, and beyond excited to talk about our integrations with Google Workspace and what Lucid can do with it. Just one of my favorite topics to discuss with our customers.
Thanks so much, Jackson and Alex. And we've got people joining from across the world today. We've got Ecuador, we've got Portugal, we've got Virginia, we've got my backyard, Salt Lake City. So really excited to have such a great group here today. And I'm especially excited to have Chloe Fagan-Tucker joining us from Google Workspace. So Chloe, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Kathleen. Here at Google Workspace, I cover business development and strategic partnerships, working with our amazing Google Workspace ecosystem partners like Lucid to create transformative product experiences with Google's suite of productivity and generative AI products. Really happy to be here today.
Love it. Thanks so much, Chloe, and thanks, Jackson and Alex. All right, before we get started officially, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. So the question everyone always wonders, yes, this webinar is being recorded. So keep an eye out for an email with a link to that recording within just a day or two. It'll be sent to the email that you used to register for this webinar today. That email will also include some additional resources, including Help Center articles, a blog post, and much more. Next, and super importantly, we really want to hear from you throughout the webinar. So please feel free to hop into the chat and share your thoughts. Especially if you have questions, please add those to the chat, and our fabulous backstage team will answer as we go using your name. So keep an eye out for your name in the chat to answer those questions there. And then we'll also leave lots of time for a Q&A at the end of this webinar so we can really chat more. All right, let's officially get started. So if you're joining the webinar today, your organization has most likely invested in Google Workspace, and we want Lucid to work seamlessly alongside Google's amazing solutions so you get even more out of that investment. And that's why I'm so excited to have my friend and peer in that order, Chloe Fagan-Tucker here, to talk about how Lucid and Google Workspace partner together. So Chloe, so amazing to have you here and get to partner, and it's so even more amazing, really, to get to partner with Google Workspace on the integrations that we'll be showing today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me, Kathleen. It's so good to be here with the Lucid crew and friends.
Yeah, and we're so happy you're here. It's been really great to work with you, partly because Lucid and Google Workspace are both super mission driven. So to kick us off, we'd love to hear more about Google Workspace's mission and how you feel Lucid fits into that mission as a partner. So first question officially, what challenges does Google Workspace aim to solve now and in the near future?
Yeah, I love that question. Google Workspace, we've been a player in the productivity space from the early days, all the way from Gmail to today. We've really seen the workspace ecosystem mature and take off, bringing value to users and developers. We strive to create a multifaceted but simple to use communications platform where busy professionals can meaningfully connect people so they can create, build, and grow together. And that's really our mission. So as we've grown to 11 million paying organizations worldwide using Google Workspace for communications and collaboration, we've seen the need for users to streamline their workflows within Google Workspace and other third-party platforms like Lucid. We've really seen that need grown a lot. And so we want to make it easy for users to find more efficiency in their day-to-day tasks that do include Google Workspace. But like you said, Kathleen, ultimately, a lot of those workflows live in other third-party SaaS providers like Lucid. And so we really want to reduce context switching, especially that kind of movement that happens in between tabs that all of us face every day. And we want to amplify collaboration.
Yeah, and speaking of collaboration, that aligns so nicely with Lucid's mission to help users see and build the future faster. That visual component to your workflow is really it's so important these days to get all your teams aligned and on the same page. And then, of course, the more connected your tools are, the more aligned your teams are, and the faster you can build. Just connecting everything, all the greatness from Lucid and all the greatness from Google Workspace is the name of the game and what we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. So for Lucid, a super big highlight last year was when Lucid was announced as a 2025 Google Cloud Technology and Innovation Partner of the Year. Yes. So from your perspective, what key elements of our collaboration and the integration between our platforms led to that success?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the day when I gave you that call and let you guys know that you had won that award. And it was such a delight for us both. But to answer your question, for Lucid's Partner of the Year award this year, we really thought about why we've been excited to partner with Lucid, what we've been working on together over the years, and how we've been doing it. So in terms of the why, Lucid has been a key partner to growing our ecosystem of visual collaboration partners, where customers rely on Lucid's numerous tools to drive, collaboration and productivity, from whiteboard and brainstorming all the way through execution and complex program management. In terms of the what, we've been excited to have Lucid as an early adopter for some of our first forays into partner integrations for Gmail and for Calendar. And more recently, of course, as a launch partner, we've brought several new integration points to our first-party apps, like in Meet and Editors. Editors is what we call Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and now in Google Chat. And then for the how, within Google Workspace, we think deeply about building highly contextual experiences and enhancing user workflows for customers. And so Lucid has been right there with us as we've gone to customers to understand what functionality they're most interested in working between Lucid and Google Workspace products. And, Lucid has really helped us get a great amount of feedback that's helped us narrow in on what features really move the needle for, developing our ecosystem and serving our shared users. So overall, we really value that depth of collaboration for our ability to serve customers as we grow our partner base and our platform. And that's one of the reasons why we chose Lucid this year.
Totally. Yeah, like you said, that phone call was so exciting. And something that I love about highlighting, of course, I love talking about the Partner of the Year award in general, but something that I'm really excited about is it was, yes, because of all the great collaboration that we've had in the past year, and we'll talk more, sneak preview into Google Chat, our latest and greatest, but it's also really the culmination of actually more than a decade of partnership between Google Workspace and Lucid. So let's take a look at a fun little timeline. We would not be Lucid if we didn't have a good visual to go along this, to just talk about some of the highlights. Don't worry, everyone, we're not going to do a history lesson, but we really want to show just the depth of what we've been doing. Starting literally in the same year that we were founded, we were also partnering with Google Workspace on the launch of what would become the Google Workspace Marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. Launching Workspace Marketplace has been such an important way to bring the ecosystem of third-party tools directly to Workspace users. And in particular, we've seen that customers ask for more ways to have visual collaboration tools like Lucid come directly into the flow of collaboration where they already are within Google's product surfaces. So over the last few years, we've provided more integration points for developers to build more feature-rich in-app experiences within Meet, Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and now Chat, as I mentioned earlier. And just to focus a little bit more on Google Chat, over the last few years, our team has been really investing in Google Chat as a key thread of real-time communication to enable teams to do their best work together. That investment has culminated in Google Chat delivering 120 new features since January 2023 alone, and many more have landed since then. And so as our chat team has also built the chat platform to support more rich experiences within chat DMs and chat spaces. And just to give you another example, as of March of this year, usage of Google Chat apps has grown more than 300% year over year alone. So I'm really excited to see how this trend continues to grow, especially with Lucid joining us again as a launch partner as we bring third-party apps to chat.
Totally. It's so fun to add yet another Google Workspace product to the Lucid integration.
Yeah.
And throughout the chat process where we built, it was so fun because we really co-built and collaborated to make the best integration possible there. We used lots of great feedback and seeing that growth already, just 300% is really exciting. And we also have something fun to just highlight is not in this timeline. It's always fun to get together at events like Google Cloud Next and chatting on Google Meet and just working together as one team. I said at the beginning that Chloe's a friend first and a peer second. So really fun. And just to close out this timeline, the goal really for both platforms is to optimize the best user experience across Google Workspace and Lucid. And we're always building to get just that much closer to that ideal user workflow. And we really care about what's innovative and what's helpful for the user experience.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been so excited to have Lucid signing up to launch yet another integration within the Google Workspace app ecosystem. And Kathleen, like you said, it's always great to work with partners who keep their pulse on the market. I'd love to hear from you. What are you hearing from our shared customers about Google integrations and especially the Google Chat one so far?
Yeah, such a great question. And I know everyone here is super excited to see the visuals, but I'm going to give you that sneak preview. The customers who have seen Google Chat already have really loved the ability to unfurl a visual preview. It just makes it that much easier and faster to get quick insight into what's on that Lucid document. And then also later on, you don't have to dig through your chat history to find that one URL that had that one Lucid document. You've got this easy, ready to go preview that just makes it that much faster. Customers are also super excited about the ability to search for Lucid documents right within chat. Again, we don't want you to have to open another tab just to find another link that you have to go back into Google Chat to share. So we've built an experience that really makes that smooth and seamless. So we're super excited. The Lucidspark and Lucidchart chat apps are rolling out now in our Google Workspace add-ons. So for everyone here, if the chat app is available in your app section in Google Chat, you can give it a try and paste the Lucid URL into Google Chat, and even better, search for Lucid documents right within there. And we think you'll love the experience. And Jackson is going to show just how that experience looks very soon. Okay, Chloe, last question.
Okay.
Our partnership has achieved so much already in the last 10 plus years, and especially in the last couple of years. But as you look ahead, what excites you most about the future of our collaboration and the potential for even deeper integrations to serve both of our customers?
I love that question. Let me think about that. Yeah. So look, as we talked about earlier, we just launched the ability for third-party developers to build Google Chat apps. And we're really excited to see how Lucid and Google Workspace users enable this and see value in that in the future. But of course, we can't talk about the future without talking about AI. And it's been really exciting to see both of our companies, leveraging the power of AI tools to help users make their day-to-day workflows easier. Google Workspace has been incorporating AI into our products for many, many years now. And honestly, I think we're just getting started in terms of bringing more ways for partners to plug into that within Workspace. So I'm sure we can't share a ton of specifics yet, but I'm excited to take on those conversations with Lucid and hopefully find really exciting ways that we can collaborate in that way going forward.
Totally. And this really is just the beginning. We're always super excited to hear your experience with how you're using Lucid and Google Workspace and how our integrations are helping you enhance those workflows. And we're excited to just deepen those integrations based on that feedback and add even more value. What about you, Chloe?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Same here.
Okay, love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chloe, and super excited to chat more during our Q&A.
Yes, no problem. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing from the audience in Q&A later. So thanks again.
Totally, totally. Well, we just covered the great history of partnership between Google Workspace and Lucid. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let's dive into an example workflow of how you might use Lucid and Google together for seamless workflows and centralized information. So, Jackson, can you set the stage for us?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited to get into this. I'm just going to share my screen real quick, and we can walk through what this, workflow looks like. Now, for you that can see my screen, I really want to kind of start with calling out that, as you're kicking off a project, whether it's a hiring plan or a product launch, before you start ideating, oftentimes, you really want to bring that information into an area where team members are already having that conversation. Really just to get the group working together and bring them, in for awareness on the project. Now, that initial conversation oftentimes starts in Google Chat, like we've mentioned, maybe a Google Calendar invite, or maybe just a quick meet call. And this is where Lucid meets you where you already are working. So let's talk a little bit about how this looks across apps in the Google Workspace. Starting with something familiar like Google Chat, you can easily attach your Lucid document to a Google Calendar invite, or when you hop into a meet call, you can launch Lucid right there. It's a really great way to have face-to-face connection, but bringing Lucid to your sessions makes them a little bit more collaborative, providing a little bit more visual elbow room. And instead of waiting for your turn to talk, everyone can contribute in parallel. You can easily message users in Google Chat to let them know about the project, sending them a Lucidspark board, maybe a Lucidchart document natively without ever leaving the thread. As we mentioned, you can actually do a /Lucid search to be able to look for particular documents and then share a live preview directly in the chat. You can pick the document, set the viewing or edit permissions without ever leaving. And I think that that really helps all of us stay efficient and just remove kind of the mental gymnastics of context switching in our day-to-day. It's a really great way to bring everyone together, but also centralize information.
Yeah, and one team I worked with pasted a Lucid process board into chat. And before the meeting even started, a designer flagged a missing UX step. That context completely changed how they approached the discussion in that meet call that was coming up.
Yeah, that's such a good call out, Alex. I mean, having these docs already incorporated into the calendar invite in the meeting or the chat makes it easy for people to find that relevant information beforehand, gathering necessary context ahead of the meeting, and just, keeping in mind that it's important to think about those people who need a little bit more time to think on something. It really gives them a chance to contribute their ideas, feel heard, seen, and really just gather their thoughts before they're on the spot in the meeting. Now, let's talk a little bit about Lucid's Infinite Canvas. Your team, has this infinite canvas where they can collaborate and ideate as they start the project. And Lucidspark gives you that creative playground where teams can think together in real time, really just at contributing ideas. It's not about polished visuals yet. It's sticky notes, quick drawings, rough frameworks. I'm actually going to open up, so you can see what this might look like when using something like Google Meet. You actually see your colleagues, side by side, having this FaceTime, but also a really great visually interactive experience accompanying it. So we can all, kind of share our thoughts, feedback, draw over ideas, and engage with each other beyond the medium, our voice, and our visual presence. You can use it to run planning sessions, capture what matters, and really just explore those options freely.
Yeah, and honestly, Jackson, I think the vibe shifts, right? The team members who are normally quiet in meetings start dropping sticky notes, organizing ideas, and actually start to get excited. It unlocks a different kind of energy whenever we're able to visually collaborate alongside our team members in a platform. We're really two platforms, Google Workspace and Lucid.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, I think that as we think about coming together as teams and kind of breaking the ice, I think that there's some really great opportunities to use visual activities within Lucidspark. It's one of my favorite features. Clicking on visual activities, it's a great way to measure things like, UX testing, customer research, qualifying impact versus feasibility. But one of my favorite ways is actually, again, to break the ice. I don't know about you guys, but I've sat in way too many roundtables where people awkwardly ask, for a fun fact. And for me personally, I blink every time. All I can think about is tacos and my dog. There's nothing else you need to know about me as soon as you ask me that question. So one way to break the ice and avoid that awkwardness is using those visual activities to dive a little bit deeper into, kind of what people are thinking and get those creative, juices really flowing. It's a great medium that, allows you to kind of contribute, those your feedback, whether it is for UX testing or something fun like this. But you can actually see the collective of how everyone is voting on it, both the average and what every individual has. So as you can see here, Alex and I are actually taking this visual activity on our own time, really thinking about, would we rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Now, we can review the results here. I'm going to, overlay my thoughts on it. I am team horse-sized duck. One opponent to focus on. Sure, it's terrifying, but I've seen Jurassic Park. I am not dealing with 100 ankle biters chasing me.
No way. I'd take 100 duck-sized horses any day. I mean, honestly, I feel like they might get tired, and I could just climb a tree whenever I need a break. I think I got this.
Hey, you can climb that tree. You can do it. They might, I respect it. We may not agree on battle tactics, but at least you've got the horsepower. So now that the ice is officially melted, let's talk a little bit more about how we move from organic brainstorming into building and sorting ideas. Now, in Lucid's canvas, you have this infinite canvas, and ways to really bring together, sorting and tagging and gathering feedback on, various process diagrams and really whatever you're trying to work on as a team. Zooming in a little bit on what that looks like, users might come into a polished artifact where you think you've covered kind of all of the bases and, really just want to make sure that you're including all of the different departments and teams that are a part of this iterative process. Team members can quickly add sticky notes, draw over concepts, and give you this kind of, soundboarding for that V2, so that you can really make sure that you're making these decisions, hopefully without bias. Now, you can use pens, sticky notes. Alex can actually just kind of draw over various things here while we're talking through it. Adding these sticky notes is really easy as well because, we have these dynamic colors that allow us to understand where feedback is coming from, really just making it easy for users to contribute. Now, one of my favorite things to do from here is actually sorting and making sense of the whole board. I'm going to move into another frame where we really want to think more about suggested improvements. Again, you can kind of define this by department or owner or theme or, month, whatever you really are trying to organize. But I think starting with just ideas for where we improve is kind of the beginning phase. So adding a sticky note, you can double click your mouse, add in thoughts like add a credit authorization form. After you do all of that work, it's really easy to then start tagging these sticky notes. When you click on the sticky note, there's this banner that allows you to add tags, build out whatever makes the most sense for you, and then start kind of containerizing and grouping these ideas in a way that makes sense, that's really organic. So as you can see here, I've started to go through and sort by department, like maybe the credit team needs to own this particular item. This one's actually owned by the credit and the process team. And I'm doing all of this so that way we can really kind of organize and containerize it later, simply by lassoing over those objects. You then click on the wrap content option and then containerize them. Or you can sort them by color, tag, and collaborative AI. You'll notice that when I sort it by tag, suddenly I have a really nice visual of which teams should own this information. Previously, it was really, kind of an abstract form of information, whereas now we have this really digestible, kind of form for action.
Yeah, and right. I mean, when I'm planning a cross-functional launch, I tag sticky notes by team, PMMs, engineering, sales, and then we sort by tag. It really creates clarity and lets each team know what's theirs, like instantly, just in a very fast way.
I totally agree. It's really delightful. I get a thrill every time I do this. There's something about seeing those abstract ideas suddenly containerize and feel like they're a little bit more actionable. It doesn't feel as chaotic. I think it's important to encourage that chaos where it makes sense, because a lot of good ideas come from that kind of sandboxing. But, in addition to that, being able to then make sense of it and organize those details really helps a lot, downstream. So now that we've really accelerated that momentum, you can use that Lucid's Gather feature to cluster those ideas, unlock patterns that your team might have missed, and then with a quick toggle, switching into that decision mode. It makes it so much easier to bring that structured and actionable feedback towards implementing that new version in the process. And, I think it's really important to call out, as we talk about this, kind of brainstorming and shifting into the building process, I often think about, anything meaningful being very rarely a linear line. It's really this, kind of continuum of ideating, brainstorming, designing, and deploying. And you kind of, live in that realm, moving back and forth. And so that's really why we need tools that support each space very intentionally. And I think Lucid is a great medium for that. So again, we've gathered feedback, we've addressed gaps, we're ready for that V2. And that's where I'm going to bring Lucidchart in. I'm going to start focusing on more of a polished artifact. You can use our universal canvas, really just being able to kind of leverage, the full spectrum of the suite alongside it. Simply clicking in this upper left-hand corner, you can then filter it into Lucidspark or Lucidchart really easily. But it allows you to bring in this, context with data in a rich shape library to build out these processes. So let's walk through an example. I'm actually going to open our data panel and bring in a Google Sheet where I found supported ticket results. I did this because I want to be able to add, context and color to what this process looks like and what the impact is downstream for teams. When you connect data, you can then add data directly from Google Sheets. Now, what's really cool about this is that it is a bi-directional data set. It automatically refreshes every 30 seconds so that way you're always working with the most up-to-date data. We do that so that way we can actually bring kind of a dashboard-like experience to the process diagram. Now, if you ever want to customize what the refresh rate is, you can absolutely do that. Whether you want it to be automatic, you want to manually push for updates, or maybe you just don't ever want it to refresh and you want it to be a static, artifact, you absolutely have the flexibility to define that here. Data linking is such a powerful way to be able to bridge the stories in those spreadsheets that might not be, easily, told for others that receive them downstream. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this data in is because I'm going to associate it with the process diagram with what we call conditional formatting. And it really is magic. That's why we chose this magic wand in that upper left-hand corner. It's really powered through this logic of if something happens, then something changes. So we're really bridging this gap between data and visualization in a centralized place. What I've done here is connect the data to a shape. All you have to do is grab a row of data and drag and drop it over the shape. And you'll notice that it magnetizes to it. What that's going to do is attach it as metadata so that when you look at the data panel, it's actually showing you, all of the information that's associated with it directly. Now, it basically brings in this really great opportunity to start showcasing, what the status of that process is. As the data changes in the spreadsheet, it automatically updates in the diagram as well. Now that your diagrams become a living dashboard, you've taken static visuals and made them dynamic. They're data-driven and always up to date. You have the opportunity to define, what that if-then statement is. I've said if it's approved, then give it this green check mark. And it's all powered through this spreadsheet. Any changes that take place in Lucid are going to send back to Google. Any changes that happen in Google are going to send back to Lucid, making sure that this artifact is always the most up to date. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, your system being mapped and data backed. I want to talk a little bit more about using this data like a Kanban board. It's great for task assignment or just making interactions with spreadsheet data more enjoyable. So I'm actually going to come back into Lucidspark. As we work in Lucidspark, we can actually bring data in directly um, uh, from Google Sheets. Alex, do you mind actually talking about that for a little bit? I'm actually going to connect this data here on the back end, and you can just kind of share a little bit about, how that's helped you and what you've seen with other teams.
Yeah, for sure. So whenever it comes down to how we incorporate Lucid with Google Workspace's sheets there, it allows us to do something very unique in this whiteboarding space. It provides us a way to take those rows of data that are inside of a Google Sheet environment and put them as actionable cards inside of our whiteboarding space. So similar to just adding our ideas or our thoughts or our tasks onto our whiteboard as a sticky note, we have the ability to actually have live representative data of that Google Sheet row directly in our whiteboard so that we can start to think about it directly from the source and also establish an additional bidirectional connected piece to it. So as changes occur, as changes happen, we can go through that process of having and making sure that our information, our data that's inside of this whiteboard is actively aligned with the Google Sheet itself. So changes that are happening as we're placing things in a dynamic table, for example, or a Kanban style board, that's going to actively update itself inside of the Google Workspace sheet and allow us to make sure that we can provide alignment through different means of information.
Yeah, no, I love what you just said there. I feel like, just finding new ways to interact with our data is just such a new way to bridge kind of that gap between the tabular format and making it, just feel really human centric and feel those micro wins along the way. It's really just such a clean process, being able to drag and drop items, throughout. So I'm sharing my screen now, just coming up live again here. I now have the data connected from Google Sheets. So all I had to do was come in here, import rows, and then choose the data set that I wanted to associate with Google Sheets. I can then create new rows and interact with the spreadsheet directly here. Simply just defining maybe the department or the persona, the customer stage is going to be pending. I'm able to really kind of build out directly from here. And that's going to add itself to the board as a Lucid card. Again, this is attached to the Google Sheet and does give you this option to click into the Google Sheet directly from the canvas. When I click on it, it's going to open up a new tab, and you'll notice that that new card is already showing as a row. Right here, we're working in these, tabular formats, but, being able to interact with it in, cards really just kind of sets the tone for how you're managing those projects, the tasks, how other people can be involved in a way that's just really human centric. So again,
And I'll add real quick, Jackson, I think it's so clean when we incorporate this in this Kanban dynamic table because teams just love dragging cards from an in progress state to done in this visual collaborative mode that we're in and seeing that status sync instantly with our Google Sheet. It's visual progress, but with structure behind it.
I love that visual progress. That is such a good statement. I think it's so important for us to be able to visualize, manifest, create those wins along the way. And, I think that it really gives us an opportunity to recognize when other team members make a change and, these minor improvements that they all add up. They lead to kind of meeting the finish line. Again, kind of going back to the continuum of building. It's like running a marathon. If I'm training for the marathon, I need to master a 5K. I need to do the 10K before I can really get the marathon. I mean, anytime you're training, you need to build up to it. And I think that this really lives in both our virtual workspace and like in the real world, with the real environment. These mental gymnastics that may not feel as tangible still have a mental and an emotional impact on our workers. And this makes all of that the more real so that we can come together, celebrate the wins and see progress over time. Speaking directly to what you're referring to, importing these cards into what we call a dynamic table is such a great way to visualize that work. You're seeing here that it's automatically visualizing the rows and columns that are a part of that spreadsheet. I've sorted it by assignee so that I can see the department of ownership and the status. It makes it really easy to be able to update this information over time and interact with that data. Here, you're actually seeing one of the rows with the balance threshold in progress. And because we used data associated with the process diagram we just built, as it moves from in progress to approved, notice how this turns green. I mean, it's updating the data here in the spreadsheet, but I'm actually creating visual references of progress within the team. Maybe it's not approved and it's actually in review. We now kind of have this off brown gray color that's just indicating that maybe something needs to happen here. Just allowing you to really see and visualize that. You'll notice that all these changes are being synced directly back to the spreadsheet, so that you don't have to worry that you're working with incorrect data or anything's out of date. It really keeps both systems perfectly in line. Now, I think it's really important to call out that, as team members are working on all this information, it's important to be able to wrap all of it up, bring stakeholders along for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, because getting alignment in the room is definitely one thing, right? But packaging it up for leadership is honestly just another challenge altogether.
Exactly. I completely agree. And that's where Presentation Builder comes into play. You can quickly grab keyframes from your Lucid board simply by clicking on this Presentation Builder. It's going to add a pre-formatted sized 4 slides that you can drag over various content and push that directly into Google Slides.
Yeah, and using this, you're not rebuilding the story from scratch. You're just pulling the highlights that matter.
Oh man, I could not agree more. It's really not just about pretty slides either. It's telling that whole story behind the work. What's changed, who is involved, where things stand, and what's next. You can basically, capture all of that content directly from here and then push it into this centralized place where other team members can, gather that TLDR. You're not just packaging the journey, you're basically bringing it all together so people don't have to dig through every sticky note or every doc.
And honestly, this is super helpful when you're presenting to leadership or cross-functional teams who weren't a part of the day-to-day operation. One thing I love to do is link those artifacts to the document itself. So bringing in those Google Workspace artifacts into the Lucid document in case the project does get opened up again at a later date, and maybe I need really a quick refresh as to what happened previously.
That's a great call out. And actually, I do the same thing. It feels so good to keep things nice and centralized. It's really just a gift to you in the future. Trust me, you're going to appreciate it later when you open that time capsule and you're trying to just acclimate to what happened 6 months later. It's such a great way to be able to build content, push it into systems without rework, but then take that content and then bring it back in as a TLDR while maintaining all of the historical reference of progress along the way. You can simply paste it into the canvas here. And what that unlocks is your ability to be able to, open it, work natively in Google Workspace without, again, we talked about it, opening another tab. We can take this little snapshot or window into different work that's taking place.
Yeah, I think as Jackson's showing this and calling this out, like we are embedding Google Workspace assets into this canvas. And it's being able to preview the content in context with the conversation that we're having. It's opening and editing those Google Workspace docs, sheets, and slides without having to leave the window that we're currently in. And I think we've highlighted this in previously, is the ability that everything stays up to date as changes happen. Whether that's messing with Google Sheets data rows that are aligned with our Kanban board, as well as our progress, process diagram, or if it's even updating a Google Workspace slides presentation, we can just do that in a tab. We don't have to have multiple tabs to understand where that work is. So not only is your team aligned, you've created a living connected hub where anyone can jump in and find the why behind the work that's being done.
Man, that is so important. I love the ability to be able to build content, and be creative, but then also tie that back to the systems of record that support, all of this work. And, the context switching and keeping all those resources aligned. There's so many different techniques for it. One thing I actually use from Google that I love is Chrome groups. So this is in, Google's ecosystem with, the Chrome browser. It's such a great way to organize my projects. But in that, oftentimes I'll link a Lucidspark board that has all of the different content that I need, so that way there's one doc that I need to find, and I can then suddenly have access to the Google Doc where the project brief was drafted, the Google Sheet where all of the systems and data that supports why we're doing this work is connected. The Lucid board that brings, all of the different visuals to the process that, kind of centralizes and makes all of this work more human and tangible along the way. It's so interactive. We've gone from brainstorming all the way into building and organizing, and then deploying so that stakeholders even have a record of it. They don't need to be brought in for the entire in and out. They don't need to be in for the weeds of, the whole project. They just need to know why it was prioritized, what data supports the motion, and what was the outcome based on that. So as you look at, kind of end to end within Lucid and the Google Workspace, Lucid truly is the most complete. It's an end-to-end visual collaboration platform that empowers your distributed team to plan, align, and execute all at scale. And Kathleen, there we go. We got Kathleen.
Love it. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Great to be back. And thanks so much, Jackson and Alex, for that amazing demo. Hopefully you all can tell that we don't just build Google Workspace integrations. We use them all the time and we love them. Okay, so as we wrap up, this is, of course, just one example of how you can leverage the functionality between Lucid and Google Workspace together. Lucid also integrates with Gmail, Google Drive, Google Cloud, Google Classroom. We didn't even have time to go to all of those great things. So we also have some additional resources to cover things like that, to really just help you integrate Lucid into your Google workflow and vice versa. So be sure to check out the chat and those email follow-ups for both of those. I think Joseph Little really summed it up better than I ever could, which is that this is going to revolutionize the way that Joseph is going to be doing some things. And Joseph, we hope you feel that way as you start to test things out, and let us know our feedback. So with that, let's move into some Q&A. I think our internal team has been doing a great job answering questions as we go, but yeah, we'll bring back the panelists and let us know your questions in the chat. And we'll start maybe while you're thinking of some questions. I feel like we covered this, but Jackson or Alex, can you walk us through just the basics of how you connect the newest Google Chat integration?
Yes, absolutely. So anyone that has the Google Workspace integration already on, you automatically receive the benefit of the Google Chat integration. Simply, as this is rolled out in phases, being a brand new integration with Lucid and Google Workspace, all you have to do is open a Google Chat thread and then paste a URL from Lucid directly in the thread, and it's going to automatically unfurl, giving you that preview. And if you want, you can actually try the /Lucid search to be able to index all of your documentation and find the most relevant document to share with team members without ever leaving the chat.
Totally. Another question maybe for both of you is, who is this integration available to? Which Lucid licenses are involved there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Alex, do you know more about which teams and groups have access to the Google Workspace integration?
Yeah, I think in this case, it's going to be twofold, right? Understanding that Within Lucid, it's going to be leveraging the team licensing as well as the enterprise licensing that can take advantage of this. But of course, also Google Workspace licensing. That's definitely going to be a required aspect of this to make sure everything works as intended.
Totally. I think we might have done such a good job answering questions in the chat that we might be out of them. So maybe for the people joining us today, last call for questions from Chloe on the Google Workspace side, from Alex or Jackson, and if not, we'll give you some extra time back. Okay, we did too good of a job answering questions, everyone. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining. And as you use the Google Workspace integrations, especially the newest and greatest Google Chat integration, we are just a message away if you've got feedback. We're all ears and really excited to continue building and improving all of our integrations. And we can't do that without all of your feedback. So thanks so much for everyone for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.